Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for Monday's edition of Alaska Weather. On yesterday's satellite imagery, no change from last week, late last week, just big area high pressure over the interior, systems and moisture coming northward here well out to the west, up and over the top, and on down into the eastern part of the state there. Actually, this imagery left over from Saturday, and we had a system coming up the Aleutians that's still parked out over the central Aleutians. This disturbance up there near Wrangell Island let's see, that moved northeastward there and then began to drop down yesterday onto the western Arctic coast. And today that's come down here, Seward Peninsula, drifting southward now, just east of St. Lawrence Island, and band of clouds ahead of the advancing system there, right across just near the Pribilofs, extending into the Bristol Bay area. Not much, if any, moisture associated with this. In fact, back up in the main cloud area there, just mainly clouds with some areas of light snow from the Seward Peninsula and then mostly offshore. Not a lot going on in the Arctic coast up there, just some areas of flurries. See some clouds trying to press southward there, initial push off into the Mackenzie River Delta. And other than the fog and low clouds around Cook Inlet and Connecticut Arm today, pretty sunny conditions here. South central Alaska, Prince William Sound and eastward down to Kodiak Island. Some light snow reported at Kodiak this afternoon. A little bit of moisture down there actually associated with this batch farther to the southwest. Nice day here across the southeast coast once again, a little breezy, but lots of sunshine. High pressure up over northwest Canada, keeping its influence across all of the Panhandle for dry, sunny conditions. Nice light winds, Gulf of Alaska, North Gulf Coast. Very light winds, of course, leading to the low clouds and fog that kind of appears and then disappears. And the fog advisory, dense fog advisory, remains out for the Anchorage area until 1 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. So look for areas of dense fog to form again tonight, much like it did last night. Otherwise, upward system out here, areas of light snow again from the southern Seward Peninsula on down towards maybe Unalakleet over to St. Michael, but nothing significant, and pretty scattered here from the eastern Bering Sea, maybe down to Nunivak Island, back up to St. Lawrence Island, and another swath of flurries up along the central and eastern Arctic coast with some patchy fog thrown in there. Very weak low southeast of Kodiak Island, and that's about it. No big storms at all on the chart here. That front out here to the west weakening, actually sliding back to the west a little bit today. That'll probably lift northward tonight, but kept Adak and Atka in the rain and clouds. And for tonight, that'll continue here. Very weak low develops along that frontal boundary there. Not much in the way of wind with it, just low clouds, fog, drizzle, light rain. Again, right over Adak and Atka, kind of extending back, but not quite making it to Shemya. Otherwise, the Bering Sea pretty quiet here, just a very weak low, 1,016 millibars near the Alaska Peninsula. No moisture associated with that. Upper level system still parked here right about in this area, so that'll kick off a few light snow showers, keep the skies mostly cloudy. We could see a few more clouds here into the Kuskokwim Valley, maybe a few snow showers. Same thing for Kodiak Island. Some of that might sneak on up into Kuskokwim Bay over toward Lake Iliamna. And again, the dense fog advisory out northern Cook Inlet, Anchorage, northward there to Knik Arm, but it's clear up over the interior, and maybe a light snow shower around Arctic Village, maybe, otherwise not much going on at all. No change here over the Panhandle, just kind of breezy, especially down over the southern areas. Less wind up to the north now. Arctic high sliding off into the southern British Columbia area. That'll continue to weaken here over the next couple of days. High pressure, light winds, north slope Arctic coast, but there is a front up there, especially to the northwest, that'll be dropping on down to about this position on Tuesday. So that'll increase the westerly winds or turn the winds more westerly, especially on Wednesday. But look for some increasing snow here from about Point Lay eastward all the way over to the Mackenzie Bay area. Otherwise, mostly sunny. Noatak Valley and on out to Kivalina there, Kotzebue. Mostly sunny conditions actually all the way down to possibly St. Lawrence Island. And then some areas of light snow, the Kuskokwim Valley down into the Kilbrook Mountains there. Scattered snow showers, Alaska Peninsula, Aleutian Range. Very weak low there, associated actually with the upper level system. So look for mostly cloudy skies, light snow showers, but winds quite light, nothing at the surface at all to kick any wind up. So just actually pretty fair conditions here. Scattered showers now, that front weakens into a trough, and even the scattered showers are going to become quite isolated by this time tomorrow. And this moisture here staying north of the western Aleutians. Big storm there just to the southeast though, with a much windier pattern. And the southeast coast here for tomorrow, high pressure continues to weaken and push off, so less gradient, but it'll stay dry and on the cool side, but with less wind. So some of those overnight low temperatures might drop a little colder than they have been with the wind blowing. And then for Wednesday, that weakens, continues to push off to the east, stays sunny over the southern southeast coast. But look for an increase in the clouds here. Chance of some light snow, maybe from Haines to Elfin Cove. Better chance of some snow showers for Yakutat on over to Cordova. Mostly cloudy, Prince William Sound, south central Alaska area. And then this front coming southward here. Areas of light snow pushing into the Tanana Valley. There, the White Mountains, say from Eagle down to possibly Northway, extending back into the Kuskokwim Valley, southward along and west of the Alaska Range here, into northeast Bristol Bay, this other portion of the front pushing down to the Alaska Peninsula, and gradually colder conditions coming into the Bering Sea here. The wind's not all that strong behind this front, but definitely colder air, which is already coming in with the upper level system today, and that'll continue through Wednesday and actually gradually become a little colder though. But dry conditions, northeast winds 20-25 knots there through the Bering Strait down to St. Lawrence Island. And again, just scattered snow showers through the Pribilofs. Another trough drops some more snow, and look for westerly winds 20 to 25 knots. Although Wednesday afternoon you could develop into a gale out of the west, say 35 knots, minimum gale there over toward Demarcation Point, Kaktovik, Butter Island, along the coastal areas there. That could result in some blowing snow, but right now just small craft advisories are in the forecast. And then back to the west, lighter winds, but probably a better chance of snow there on the western coast. And out west, front brings gale force winds definitely into the western sector of the Aleutians out there with rain and fog of the milder conditions. Break here for Adak and Atka, maybe a little bit of sun with this front hanging to the north there. And otherwise Kodiak, scattered snow showers, means mostly cloudy skies. Temperatures today across the southeast coast shaped up like this, all in the mostly in the 30s. Although Heidelberg 29 this afternoon, 33 at Annette, and 33 there at Petersburg. Juneau, state capital, 30 degrees, up to 42 at Yakutat, 35 Cordova, and 29 in Valdez. North of there, McCarthy 9 above zero, Golcana 11, Gunsight up to 21, and then north of the mountains, Northway at 4 below. Delta up to 17, back to 3 below at Fairbanks, and 15 above at Tanana. Fort Yukon -8, Eagle -4, Arctic Village -3, and Atuvik a little colder than that, with Bettles at 11 above, 1 above zero at Umiat Airfield and Deadhorse. Otherwise, we had 7 at Point Lay and 16 down at Point Hope. -1 Kotzebue, Selawik 2 above, 13 Nome, Single numbers here across the Yukon-Kuskokwim Valley areas, from 0 there at McGrath to 3 at Sleepmute, 3 also at Bethel, 17 out on Amonic, and 18 at Macoriac, 17 degrees for Savunga, 8 at Wales, and 10 at Teller. Out into the Bering Sea, lower to mid-30s here, right at the freeze mark for St. Paul, a little above that St. George, near 40 for the eastern Aleutians, and mid-30s Pacific side of the peninsula here, near 30 on the Bering Sea side, cooling down to 25 at Pilot Point and 20 at King Salmon. Otherwise, once again today, 43 at Yakutat, one of the warmer locations in the state. For the lows tonight, 15 to 20 below, maybe 22 below here over the Yukon Flats, and even the shade colder, maybe down to 25 below places like Tok and Northway. Otherwise, near or above 0 back to the northwest all the way out to the Arctic coast, and 20s, teens, 20s, and 30s for the Alaska Peninsula, 30s above freezing for the Aleutians, and teens, mid-teens to mid-20s for the Panhandle. Highs for tomorrow near 40 for the Kodiak Island area, 20s south central Alaska, Prince William Sound, 31 Cordova, 33 Yakutat. Looks like 20s to mid-30s for the southeast coast. A little below 0 here from the eastern north slope all the way down to Tok and Northway, and a little above 0 elsewhere back to the north, and then teens here along the coast, near 30 for the Pribilofs, near 40 for the Aleutians. Flying weather tomorrow, good VFR again, except for Cook Inlet here, north of the Forelands, or actually from the Forelands on up to Knik Arm. IFR to areas of dense fog. Otherwise VFR, IFR Arctic coast coming down St. Lawrence Island right along the southwest coast, and VFR for Bristol Bay. Some IFR out over the central Aleutians. By tomorrow afternoon, that disappears. Just marginal stuff now in across the Fox Islands to maybe the Pribilofs. Got some IFR up here around St. Lawrence Island to the Bering Strait, and then IFR, that next system, just showing up on the map tomorrow afternoon late. Otherwise VFR, marginal stuff here for Cook Inlet and the Kenai Peninsula, maybe Kodiak Island. Otherwise Prince William Sound, the Panhandle, all VFR right up across the Brooks Range. Anatuvik and Adigan will be VFR once again, and but Lake Clark and Merrill, watch for deteriorating of conditions here. Could go marginal throughout the day. So starting out good, and then ceilings visibility starting to come down, but rainy will stay VFR the entire day. Windy, and Isabel, Mentasta, all will be VFR again tomorrow, as well as Tanita, Portage, and Chilkoot and White. Freezing levels at the surface, Sholokov Strait, up along the coast, down the Panhandle there, pattern we've seen quite often, and 6,000 feet now. Again, this area getting suppressed here, but still 2,000 to 6,000 feet. This for late tonight into early tomorrow morning. And icing, none significant expected anywhere in the state. So moving on to the jet stream here at 33,000 feet. Upper level low here that again back on Saturday was right up there, gradually coming southward. Not a lot of punch with it at all, just clouds and flurries kind of cut off from the main flow. Jet here just coming down near the Arctic coast. This upper low here is going to start coming southward over the next few days, and by later in the week we'll have a big push of cold air here into the western interior. Southwest flow increasing the chance of snow east of the Alaska Range. Otherwise for tomorrow, northeasterly 60 knots across the Panhandle, and then this jet cutting way out to the west there, keeping that storminess well out to the west. And for the 9,000 foot winds, just 15 to 25 here for the western Aleutians into the western Bering Sea. Pretty light here over the eastern Bering Sea, and variable right down across the Alaska Peninsula. Light easterlies, St. Lawrence Island, west, maybe 25 knots. That'll probably be off the coast. Light westerlies here, 10 to 15, maybe up to 20 for Prince William Sound, turning northeast over the Panhandle. 3,000 feet, much the same pattern, and not much different in the wind speed here. All very light through the interior. West-northwest, 10 to 20 up along the Arctic coast, and light winds here over the eastern Bering Sea, Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, Bristol Bay. Winds lighter here across the Panhandle. Still offshore flow though, keeping it dry and mostly sunny for at least one more day. And then out west, 25, picking up to 30 to 35 knots here for the western Aleutians. The storm force wind, or the 55 knot winds just off to the southwest. And turbulence-wise, smooth all of interior Alaska from the Arctic coast to the Gulf of Alaska. Way out west there, you got to get to Amchitka out to Shimmy. You might pick up a little bit of light to isolated moderate chop, and then also mostly now down over the southern southeast coast. Nothing really significant, maybe for small aircraft. And after the break of hangar flying, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary O'Connor with the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. We appreciate the support of Alaska Public Media in allowing us to bring you hangar flying. This evening, we are pleased to have David Karolounis on our show. David has been leading the Federal Aviation Administration's Compliance Philosophy Focus Team. David, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Mary. Glad to be here.
Can you start telling us exactly what the new compliance philosophy is?
Certainly. It's an FAA-wide effort to find and fix safety problems in the National Airspace System, or NAS, as efficiently and effectively as possible while conserving FAA enforcement resources for the more serious, reckless, and intentional types of deviations.
The program is relatively new. Why is the FAA trying this new approach?
Well, actually, it's an approach that flows from years of experience with the Part 121 or commercial aviation field and lessons that we've learned through the Commercial Aviation Safety Team and other groups that has proven that sharing of safety information to find and fix problems before they become events is the way we can do even better at what's already the safest aviation system in the world. But of course, commercial aviation is the safest, and they have the most rigorous rules to follow and the best information sharing. And we're just trying to bring some of that approach to Part 135 and Part 91 and try to improve safety throughout the NAS.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. The FAA has been making efforts to achieve that just culture, as you mentioned, in commercial operations, and they focus on a more holistic view or a systemic picture rather than just an individual decision or an action. Is this the general aviation application of just culture?
You could certainly see it that way, and just culture is something that we're working to increase the penetration for throughout the aviation system, both inside and outside the FAA, actually. And just culture requires an understanding of each player's role in events and taking responsibility for things and fixing them rather than focusing on blame or punishment. And you know, we have a culture shift that we're going through both within the FAA and in industry to get more toward that understanding and taking of responsibility and fixing the problem rather than focusing on evidence and blame and punishment.
So the compliance philosophy applies to commercial operators, commercial pilots, and general aviation pilots, correct?
The compliance philosophy is actually an FAA-wide approach that applies to all parts of the FAA that exercise regulatory authority. So folks overseeing airports, commercial and space transportation, as well as the folks in flight standards that deal with pilots, companies, mechanics, air agencies, all across the aviation environment.
So how would it be applied differently to commercial operators versus private pilots?
Well, as you probably know, as we start from Part 91, we have the basic rules that we have to follow, general operating and flight rules, and as we progress through the stages of complexity in aviation, we have Part 135 for air taxi and Part 121 for air carrier. And federal law, the statute that we work under, requires the highest level of safety in the public's interest for air carrier operations. But in Part 91 for recreational or general aviation flying, that requirement's not there. We all have the same requirement to follow the rules, but with bringing these concepts of information sharing and proactive management of safety risk management, we're trying to bring the approach to general aviation as well, and the expectation that folks actively manage their own unique risks. So as we've seen from your hanger flying show in years past, where we've talked about changes in the type of operation, like from floats to wheels to skis, or doing something very unique off airport, for example. These are operations that have unique risks and maybe using unique equipment that are not specifically described in the rule. And we expect each operator, each company, each pilot to be managing those risks even in the absence of a specific rule.
And where could somebody go to find out more about the compliance philosophy, whether it's a pilot or a mechanic or an operator?
Well, we have set up a short URL at faasafety.gov. I'm sorry, flashing back to my old career in aviation safety, faa.gov/go/CP for compliance philosophy. And we have our key policies there, and we have the brochure, the compliance philosophy and airman rights brochure that most folks in general aviation will be seeing first as far as interacting with us on compliance philosophy.
Great.
And
oh,
can I show it to you?
sure, absolutely.
So we have this nice little trifold brochure, and we're going to have them on the counters at offices, and you may see them at a safety meeting or aviation event. But if there is some event where an individual interacts with an inspector and there's any sort of investigation or questioning going on, we expect the airman to receive one of these brochures with a brief description of why we're having the conversation. And it lays out the compliance philosophy and how it works.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. David, we'll look forward to having you on our next program, and we'll learn some more about the compliance philosophy. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you've learned something and you know to be on the lookout for brochures about the new compliance philosophy with the FAA. Until next time, fly safely.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis showing an increase here, Bristol Bay, and also out to the west from what it was several days ago. And that's going to continue with the northeast winds and the gradually falling temperatures. We'll start seeing it advance again back to the south and southwest with strips pulling off the main ice flows out there. Moving on to marine forecasts, east winds 25 knots for Clarence Strait, north 25 Stevens Passage. Pretty light out here along the coast from northwest up north there on the light side, northeast 15 to 20 down south. And then for Wednesday, those 30-knot winds in Lynn Canal go pretty light, call it light and variable. They're at 5 knots, that's like no wind. Southeast 10, very light for the inside waters. Light winds out here along the coast too, mostly from the east 10 to 15 down on the south coast. And for Prince William Sound and Cook Inlet, northern Cook Inlet, light variable winds tomorrow. Really that same pattern all the way down to Kamishak Bay, southwest 10 to 15 Kodiak, west-southwest 15 for the North Gulf Coast. And Wednesday, light variable winds, Cook Inlet, Prince William Sound, west 20 for the North Gulf Coast, and 20-knot westerlies for the Barren Islands down the east side of Kodiak, southwest 20 Shelikof Strait, northwest 10 to 15 Kamishak Bay, southern Cook Inlet. Southeast 10 for Bristol Bay tomorrow, light variable winds here on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. East winds 15 knots down to Castle Cape, and then Castle Cape to Cape Sarachev, generally light northeasterlies. And then for Wednesday, those all turn southwest, maybe up to 20 knots here along the Bering Sea side of the peninsula with a low center just up to the north there. And then out in the Aleutians, Fox Islands, light variable winds tomorrow, and then southeasterlies 15 to mostly 20 knots. And that's about it for the central Aleutians here. And then from areas west of Adak on out, you'll pick up some small craft advisory level winds, 25 to 30 out of the east. And then those turn into gales the next day, 40 knot, maybe even 45 knots out here in the western zone, but looks like at this point in time, they'll say below a storm warning, but 40 knot winds here coming in, and these winds southeast increasing late here for the central Aleutians, 30 to 35 knots, seas up to 17 feet. And then lighter winds as you head east again, those light variable winds tomorrow become southwest at only 15 there for Unalaska Island. And then for the southwest coast tomorrow, northeasterlies at about 10 knots here through this stretch of the area, north 20 St. Lawrence Island. Light winds for the Pribilofs, 15 from the northeast there, St. Matthew Island. And that kicks up to about 20 knots there on Wednesday, northeast 15 for the Pribilofs. Now we've got 20 knot north-northeasterlies here for the southwest coast. And a brisk wind advisory now back for St. Lawrence Island. Arctic coast, central areas all the way east there, west 20 knots, northwest 15. On the west side, northerlies 15 to 20 here from Cape Beaufort on down to the Bering Strait. Then the next day, 20 knot winds again from Wales up to Cape Beaufort, northwest. No change on the west side. No change to the central coast as well on Wednesday, but another trough kind of coming southward. That should tighten the gradient up enough to possibly kick in some minimum gales there on the extreme eastern Arctic coast toward demarcation point. Otherwise, you'll have brisk wind advisories back to the west. And for tonight again, fair skies, light winds over just about all the interior. Maybe a few more clouds there at the north slope Arctic coast. Could still be some flurries around, but nothing significant. Maybe some light snow showers or flurries developing here west of the Alaska Range. More so, though, out toward the southwest coast with more cloudiness, but again, nothing significant at all, no measurable amounts. Weak low pressure, Alaska Peninsula, not doing anything except for maybe some clouds. Continued fair skies, the southeast coast there, diminishing winds. Looks like windiest down here in the south now with more gradient. And this front continues to weaken out there in the west. And by tomorrow, it's just a weak trough with a few showers left behind. Bigger storm, though, just off to the southwest. Mostly cloudy, snow showers, eastern, southeast Bering Sea, especially around that weak low center. Chance of snow right through here tomorrow there up into the Kuskokwim Valley. Otherwise, mostly sunny again. Dense fog advisory, Anchorage till 1 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. Otherwise, less wind, still sunny for the southeast coast, but then we pick up a chance of snow here for the North Gulf Coast of the snow shower variety. Sunny southern southeast coast, snow in the interior. Have a great evening, and thanks for joining us.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.